Welcome. This is System Gold. I'm Randall, and today we're going to be talking about how to set up Corel PhotoPaint X7 to create animation. How do you set everything up for that? So I'm going to click on that. This is to start off a series of tutorials that I'm going to be doing. So stay tuned. I have two monitors actually, so it opens up in the other one for some reason. The first thing you'll notice is this video that pops up every time. This is a pain in the neck, and each file that you open up will all open up in here in tabs. So when you hover over it, a little X will appear. You can just click on it and get rid of it. But that doesn't get rid of that video for good. And next time you open up the Corel PhotoPaint X7, it will also open and it begins playing. I quickly paused it because it's louder than my voice. So I'm going to click Tools, Options, General, Getting Started on Startup, Welcome Screen, change that to something else. I change it to nothing. So when I open up Corel PhotoPaint X7, nothing appears. And that's the way I like it. So the first thing you want to do is create an animation file. So you do File, New. You change inches to pixels. Actually, I'm going to change this to custom first. Change inches to pixels and change this to 1080 by 720. That's HD. Always 300 DPI. On the animation, it doesn't matter if there's a background or not because you're going to add a background. So if the background appears, you're going to add a background over it. If there's no background, you're going to add one anyway. So it doesn't really matter. Unless there's a solid background for some reason, then you can just save yourself time and put it there. So we're going to do tutorial on setting up animation. Okay, so this is our animation file. The first thing you want to do is you go here, because this is just you're working off. This is a program that's just like Photoshop, and you're manipulating and editing photos here. But this program is different from Photoshop because it does animation. That's what I love about it. You just want to click on this, create a movie. See, there's nothing down here. You click on this, and now it talks about what frame you're on. There's only one frame in this file, and out of the one frames, you're on frame 1. If there were 30, it would show that we're on frame 1, and then you could click on these arrows and go to another frame. If for some reason this isn't up here to create a movie, you just go to Windows, go to Toolbars, go down to Movie, and click it. Then this will pop up probably over here somewhere. You grab it and you put it where you want. Now if you put it in a place you don't want and it's stuck there and you can't move it, you right click anywhere and then you click on Lock Toolbars. You unclick it. You move it to where you want, and then if you want, right click and click it again and lock it in, so you don't have to worry about moving it somewhere you don't want it to go. The second thing you want to do is add another file, and to do this you could either press the plus sign or do File, New. I like doing the plus sign because it saves time. So in this case you want to change the size from custom to 8 by 10. Usually I do portrait, always 300 DPI, and on this definitely no background. And color mode is always 24-bit RGB. So I click on that and here it is. Actually, I should have named it. On these files, you want to make a bunch of these as you need them. The first one might be backgrounds, and then do characters. You could do a separate one for each character. And what this does is it enables you to have files that you can manipulate, or just characters or something that's already created, and then you just copy it and throw it right in your animation. But before we get into those, on your animation, you're going to need a background. So let me just throw together a quick background. I'm not going to explain the tools that I'm using or how I'm doing it because that'll come in later tutorials. But I just want to show you this is a background. Okay, we're on one frame. We have one frame. And we want to increase this because say we want to do an animation that may be 20 or 30 long. We're not sure, but we're going to guess 30. But for our purposes, let's just guess 12. So I'm going to add 11 more to this. To do that, you click on this. You want to insert how many frames? I'm going to insert 9. Actually, I'm going to insert 11. to make it 12. And it's going to be after frame 1. It's automatically set for after the first frame, the frame that you're on. But you could change it before if you want something to happen right before it. Or it doesn't have to be right after either. Say you wanted this exact frame to be copied and go on frame 10. For example, if I screwed up 10, and this is what I want to mention too, when you have backgrounds, the first time you use the background, I would leave it blank. And then after that, put whatever you're going to do in it. Because if you make a mistake on any of the other files, any of the other frames, you could just grab the beginning one, which is blank, and replace it and then start over. Without that, then you're stuck using a frame that already has something else on it, and then you have to kind of work with it. This is a very simple one. It would be very simple to fix. But if it were more complicated with lots of things going on, it would be very difficult. So another thing is you could save your background and put it in these files, which I'll show you in a little bit. But anyway, I'm finishing explaining this. I'm going to insert 11 frames. I don't want to use the background color. We didn't choose a background color, but there's also a default color that exists even when you click no background color. So if you use background color, it's going to select whatever that default is. So I want to copy the current frame, and I want 11 frames to be inserted to be a copy of what it is now and be after frame 1, and here we go. So say on frame 10, I put my character on, and my character, oh, I screwed up the character. I didn't do something right. And now I can't, if I try to edit it, the background, maybe this character is too big, and now there's the background to deal with. I could just go, because I know my first frame I left blank. In this case, they're all blank, but let's just, for our purposes, I can copy this, Control C, and then go to 10 and paste it. But then you have to make sure it's lined up correctly. Or I can just take this frame and click again, copy current frame. I want to insert one frame after frame 10. Frame 10 is the one I screwed up. So this new frame that I'm making will be frame 11. So I go to frame 10, there's a screw up, and there's the new one that I added. So now I can put my new frame that I wanted in there. This is what I wanted. There we go. It's perfect, exactly how I want it. Okay. So now that I have that finished, I can go back to this and just go up here and delete it. And it's gone. Okay, so now you got that idea. Another thing is, suppose there's something that you decided, maybe you made a tree or something. You created a tree, and you want this tree to be on every single page. What you would normally do is you would copy it and paste it, paste it, paste it. Go to the next frame, paste it. Go to the next frame, paste it. But if you didn't want to do that, if you knew that all 12 frames you wanted this object in there, you can just put it on one frame and save it. Save it as, and then it'll tell you that it's going to flatten everything. And then you X out of it and you open it again, and everything will be flattened, and this object will be on every single page. So that's something cool to know about. It's a shortcut. Instead of pasting on every single page, you could do it that way. So now let me go over here and show you how this works. If I wanted to copy this, Control C, and then using this tool, you click outside of it, or you could do Control R to get rid of that mask. Now I could save, I say all these are different. These are different backgrounds in my animation. These are all different backgrounds. These are good to have, and then you can just copy them and paste them back in as you need them. That would be in addition to, or instead of leaving the first one blank, because maybe the first one blank doesn't matter. But if you did leave the first one blank, even if it didn't make sense, you wait until your entire animation is completed, and then you just go and delete the first one that you have. So I want to show you the purpose of having using this with characters. So let me just put together a quick character for you using a different color. Let's use black. So it stands out. Here's his head. Here's his body. Here's his legs. Here's his arms. And let's put them all together. Okay, so there's our character. Another good thing to mention is when you're creating the characters, it's good to know how big your stage is. So this is the whole stage. This is what the animation looks like. So this character is going to be way too big. But at some point, you may want to do a close-up of the person's face. So in that case, this would be perfect. Or you may say that might be a little bit too small. You want it always bigger than what you're going to need, because when you shrink it down, it distorts, but you don't notice it because it's smaller. But when it's smaller and you make it bigger, it will distort. I will show you that later. But first, here's the character. Now, I don't want to use this character. I don't want to manipulate this character. What I want to do is copy this character with all the layers and paste it and then drag it over here. Now, you can see all these are the different layers. And if you want to select a certain one, you could just click on it and see that it's highlighted here. But if for some reason it's so complicated and there's so many layers and you're trying to click and it's not going to the thing you want, you can just click and it'll show you what it's selecting. So I have this selected. I'm going to do Control Alt down, and it doesn't flatten to the background. It flattens to itself. So now this is one layer. This is what I want to use. I also want to save this so I could use it. So I have this character here, and I have another character. Now this file might be too small, or you may want to use different a whole bunch of different files to do this if these are this big. But for our purposes, let me make them a little bit smaller so we could work with them on this screen. Okay, so say I want to manipulate this character, and now he's going to jump. He's standing straight, and I want him to jump up. I don't manipulate this one, and I also don't manipulate this one, but I take this one because it has all the separate layers. I Control C to copy, Control V to paste, and I drag it down here. This is the one I manipulate because I want to keep this one as it is in case I want to use it again. And also you want to manipulate things as little as possible. So say I just wanted to work off this one. I change this one, I copy and paste it, and then I change it again, copy and paste it. Each time you change it, it gets a little bit distorted, and it's almost like you have an original copy and you copy that on the Xerox. And then that copy you copy on the Xerox. And then that copy you copy on the Xerox. Each time you copy it, you lose the quality. So when I copied this and I pasted it, I kept the full quality, and I am just going to manipulate it as little as possible. So you can scroll up or down to zoom it in, or you could change this zoom. The scroll I find is much easier. So I'm just going to change this up a little bit. And again, I'm not going to explain to you why I'm doing it or how, because that will come in later tutorials. So I just want to make him jump. So that's what I'm going to do. And again, I'm not going to use him. Let's not have anything that we don't want hanging out down there. Okay. So I copy it and paste it. Put it over here. Control Alt down. You saw all those layers that were highlighted. Now it's one. So now I have two guys. So these are what I use in my animation. I use these. I take these characters. I highlight them both. Control C. And now I paste them into my animation. And as you can see, they're way too big. So I'm going to move them close to each other. You want to highlight them both. And if you're not sure if they're highlighted completely, you just look over here and you can see that they're both highlighted. And now I want to hold down the Shift key, go to the corner until it turns to a plus. Click on it, hold it down, and drag it down and make it to the size I want. Again, when I'm making it smaller, it's fine. They look distorted at first, even when they're making bigger or smaller. You just click on this tool, whether it's a circle or a square. You click on it, and then it renders it. Okay, so these are the two characters that I have here. Now I know I don't want to use the first frame, but that's fine. I don't have to do anything with these guys. I just click to the second frame. Now I want to have him right here. I do control down, and he's flattened on the second frame. This guy, I got to figure out where I want him. So he starts off here, and I want him to jump up really high. Do I want his legs where his arms are? I don't know if I want him to be exact, because it might look like something's going on with his arms. So I want it to be either before his arms or after. Let's make it really high. So I'll make it up here. And then I go to this frame, control down. Now this is the movement. He jumped up. Okay. When you click play, there's problems because it's loading, because it's changing. In order to play this correctly, because it's high definition, you have to make sure that it's on 100% first, and then it should play fine. Now my computer is a quick computer, so if mine has to load, then yours is, if yours isn't quick, or even if yours is quick, it's going to have to load and resize every page, and it's not going to work properly. It'll either be very slow or it just won't work. So what I wanted to mention there was that we have to go to movie over here. Okay, so here's the characters jumping. I want to click movie here. If movie isn't here, again, you click on this plus sign and you go down and click on movie, and then this will pop up. Now this works in most animation programs. It works on frames per second. Usually it's I think about 35 frames per second is the normal. This is a completely different system. I'm not sure where they got this idea from. But this is, it's not 200 frames per second. It's 200 milliseconds per frame. That means that this entire animation, being 12 frames long, would be 12 times 200 milliseconds. So that would be 2400 milliseconds for this entire animation, this 12 frame animation. So what I do is I usually keep it at 60. So you just click on the top one, you right click on it, select all, click on a number and change it to 60, and then press enter. They all change. So you're going to see it, and it's going to be a much quicker now. But that's too quick. Now if it's too quick, you don't go back in movie and change this. This stays at 60. And if you want to change it to a different number, that's up to you. I'm recommending 60. So when this is too fast now, because at 200 it was perfect, but at 200 you could only make these things faster. You could only make these things slower, rather. So this is too fast. It's easy to make it slower. You go to each frame and you add a frame to it. You could choose to make these 2, 2 and 2, or you can make each of these frames 3, or make each of them 4. I would suggest you add 1 to each of them and see if that takes care of the problem. You could always add more. If you add 2 or 3 to it and now it's too slow, now you have to go and delete it. It's more work to do it that way. I would just add 1. Now sometimes you may want to make it so it's not so straight. You want to make it more natural movement, so you may change it one of the frames to be 2 and the next one to be 4, 2, 4, or 2, 3, 2, 3. And these sequences are not going to be 2. You're going to have a whole sequence of action, and you may discover that his actions, you want it to be 2 frames for each one, and that's the speed you want. And something else may happen later on that you want him to be slower, so everything's 4. But in any case, that's how you change it. It's super fast at 60, and you just add more and more frames to get it as slow as you want. So to do this, you're on the frame that you want. You click on here. You copy current frame. We're going to add 1 frame to this one. You go to the next one. We're also going to add 1 frame to this one. Copy current frame. Now let's play it and see how it looks. It's a little slower, but we may want that more. I'm not going to get into it too much, but that shows you how it'll slow it down. Okay, so I'm thinking of anything else I left out. You want to make sure you save this. This is a CPT file. These things are not flattened, they're all left loose. So you want to use them. You don't want these to be on top of each other or anything like that. You want them to have room so you could select what you need. And so you're going to make as many as you need and save them as the name of it so you could find it easy. You created wheelbarrows, for example, and you have ones with lots of layers and ones with different sizes and ones that are different colors or in different positions. You have one with the wheelbarrow straight up, one with dirt in it, one without, one with the dirt pouring out of it, one with it tipped, whatever the case may be, different trees, whatever you're doing, label it trees, a whole bunch of trees up here. And that's how you do it. This is how to set up the animation. You have your animation and you have your different files, which will all be up here. And you're not going to open them all each time. Every time you do a new animation, you're going to say, I need certain things. If you're working with a certain character that's in every animation, you're going to want that file with that character. You may not want to use the same backgrounds and same trees and same whatever. You may use them at some point in different things, but you want to try to change it up in each animation that you do so it looks fresh and new. But some things are going to be the same, like the character. And I think that's about it. We covered everything with setting up. The next step will be the next tutorial, and I hope you got a lot out of this one, and this will hopefully get you started. And check out the next tutorial, and I'll show you what to do next. Thank you.